Josh is the cure.
Okay, folks, we are back. My guest today was one of the most recognizable faces for 17 years on television. He received a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Talk Show Host, as well as a nomination for Outstanding Talk Show 2 years in a row. He is someone who has dedicated his entire life to serving others, whether it was our country as a former lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy or as a spokesman for a multitude of different charities and organizations that are near and dear to his heart, including his own foundation for multiple sclerosis. He has written numerous books, including the best-selling Living Well series. It is my honor and privilege to welcome Montel Williams to the show.
Hi, sir. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
I'm doing fantastic. It is so great to have you on the show, and especially meaningful on Veterans Day. On behalf of myself and all of my listeners, I want to first and foremost thank you for your service to our country. And, of course, happy Veterans Day to you and all the men and women in uniform.
Well, I thank you for that, sir. And I'd like to also just take the opportunity on the air to say happy Veterans Day to every single veteran that's listening to the show right now. Without a doubt, happy Veterans Day. Okay,
amen. And also, it's 239th anniversary birthday of the Marines, so hoorah!
There you go, hoorah. There you go, baby. And that's once a Marine, always a Marine, no question.
There you go. Okay, so you have given so much of yourself through the years of television, charities, fundraisers, different causes that you believe in. But a lot of people may not know that you had a very decorated military career as well. 2 Meritorious Service Medals, 2 Navy Achievement Medals, 2 Navy Commendation Medals, and 2 Armed Forces Expeditionary Medals. So my question is, how did you go from being a decorated military officer to one of the most successful television talk shows hosts?
You know, it's kind of a long story, but to make the short, I started a program while I was on active duty, speaking to soldiers and sailors and family members of some of the troops that were deployed under my charge, and that turned into some people asking me to speak at some other events to explain that program, which then by the time I blinked, I was speaking all over the country on issues from, negative youth trends to, leadership. And I ended up really resigning my active duty commission to pursue, back then, it was a nonprofit organization because I was speaking in a lot of schools across the country, and everywhere I went became a media event. And as that started to grow more and more and more and more, I started being asked to guest host television shows in local markets because I would be speaking in schools. Over the course of from like 1988 to 1991, I spoke in about 1,100 high schools across the country to about 1.5 million students, either face-to-face or video simulcast. And that really was the genesis of my show in some ways because, when the Montel Williams Show went on the air, the age group that I spoke to was now out of high school, out of college. They were in their early 20s. And that's really was the core to my audience that watched the Montel Williams Show across the country. And it stayed on for 17 years.
Wow. That is amazing. I want to talk to you about this Friday's event, obviously, but before we get into that, I want to play you an audio clip.
It is right now 11:05. If this hearing is going to stop in the next 10 minutes, I think the president needs to pick up the phone in 15. Make the call. Make the call today. If you're not going to call President Naito, call this woman. This one's child. Every nation on this planet and all people are judged. No matter what religion you are, whatever faith you are, we are all judged by what we do for the least of us. Andrew is one of the best of us. America's treasure. And if we can't treat the best better than we treat the worst, how dare you ask another gentleman to put on a uniform? Thank you so much, sir.
Wow, that is so powerful. I had the privilege and the opportunity to interview Jill Tomoressi, Andrew's mother, and she is a wonderful, wonderful woman. I want to thank you, number one, for going to testify on Jill and Andrew's behalf. So many celebrities barely spoke up and out, and you have actually led the charge. Have you had the opportunity to see or speak with Andrew since he's been released?
What a lot of people don't know is that not only did I speak at that congressional hearing, but the entire week before Andrew was released, I, Congressman, Salmon, Congressman Royce, and Governor Richardson were holed up in a hotel in San Diego Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, all day long, with our staffs all day long on the phone to someone in Mexico. Governor Richardson crossed the border, I think, no less than 8 times. One of my staff members crossed the border about 4 times, 5 times, his staff. It was not going to happen that young man was not released. So when Andrew was finally released, I flew back with Andrew on Governor Richardson's plane. So I'm speaking to Andrew almost every day right now, because again, this is how we are in some ways in this country. That we pay attention until the light goes out, but the light's never going to go out for Andrew. And right now, I'm in touch with him. He calls me or he texts me, and I call him back immediately. I spoke to him late yesterday afternoon, and we're working diligently at getting him the care that he needs. And so I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But this was a gargantuan effort by a lot of people who together, that effort put enough pressure in the right places to make people recognize that this was not about a crime, this was not about politics, this was just about compassion. And so I'm glad that Andrew's home. And, I will just say this. Again, you've seen him interviewed, and what we don't understand is that there's a young man right here who he suffered from combat PTSD, and now he's suffering from I will call it prison PTSD. And it's going to take him a little while to really grasp the full magnitude of what he has been through, and also in some ways to accept what he's been through. So, there's so many people who have reached out to me and said thank you. I can't say thank you enough to all those out there that are listening who I know we're praying, we're sending up their thoughts, we're sending up best wishes, because all of that collectively is what made this happen.
It is an amazing story, and it does go to show you that, when we do stand up for something that is so pure and so powerful, this is, just like you said in your testimony, this is one of the greatest. We're all great, but this is one of the greatest people that we have, and, valued treasure, as you said. So, again, I really do commend you on that. One more question about that before we get into the power of pain. What was Congress's reaction to your testimony? Did anyone come up to you afterwards and share any comments or information with you that you can share with us today?
Oh, I will tell you something. Every single one of the members that were present in that room and stayed and listened to Jill's testimony, almost each one of them came by and thanked us individually for being there and gave their support. And after that hearing, I believe about another 20 Congress signed on to the House resolution, and then within that last week of Andrew's incarceration, about another 40 signed on. So it was starting to reverberate. I believe, very strongly. I can't give you some of the under.
Right.
There were a lot of conversations going on in that room that I probably, I got to hit the erase button because I don't ever want to remember them. But I would say this, that had Andrew not been released, there was going to be a reaction from our Congress that I don't think the Mexican government was prepared to deal with.
Right. It amazes me, and I talked to this with Jill, that so many of the things that would have had Andrew released so much earlier were not given to the right people to see, that this was clearly a mistake. I'm referring to the 911 call in particular, the fact that the sign was on the ground with graffiti on it and everything else. It just amazes me that it took this long, 214 days. He should have been released much, much earlier than that.
Well, but unfortunately, here's the sad thing about it. This was as apolitical as it was political. Very, very strange. The Mexican judicial system is not a political system. Even no matter what amount of political pressure is put on it, that system is really, truly an independent system, and you put political pressure on it, it almost gives you equal and opposite pushback. And so what was really, really interesting about it, early on, there were some things that were done that were politically proffered, I would say, initially, that should have just been completely ignored because of a bad representation. And a lawyer who thought he was being politically correct to get Andrew to do X, Y, and Z. And that's what started a snowball that then almost tied the hands of every single one of them judicially along the way. So there were a couple things that we could have done from a congressional standpoint, a political standpoint, from the highest levels of our government that for some reason they chose not to do. So unfortunately, it had to turn into the social and very visual television campaign with a lot of media behind it that finally made better minds prevail, I think. And so I'm glad that the decision was made the way it is. But now we got to remember, and I'm telling as many people who prayed for his release, I want them to just send up that prayer to just make sure he knows he's going to be okay.
Okay, excellent. Now, the Power of Pain Foundation, or powerpain.org, is a big event, and that's happening at the Chandler Center for the Arts this November 14th, which is Friday, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You're actually going to be a speaker there, and that is a free event. And what I want to ask you is a couple of questions about that. But first and foremost, you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the 90s. It obviously has changed your life from a physical standpoint. But how has it changed you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually as well?
No, I was diagnosed officially in 1999, got re-diagnosed in 2000. I should have been diagnosed in 1980. And, it's really very interesting the way you just said it. You said that, it's clearly, affecting you physically. But you know what? Here's what's so crazy about this disease. This disease is different in every single person that it does affect. I will tell you that the medication that we take has as much effect on us emotionally as the disease itself. And the disease itself has a component because it is a disease that is attacking the myelin in our brain, and that attack, causes a physical, chemical issue that in some manifests as depression. And in me, I was extremely depressed when I was first diagnosed, and part of that was also because of going through the challenges of getting used to an immune system modifier in the medication that you have to take. And so, there's a lot of things that play against MS people and people with this illness, different than some of the other maladies and illnesses that are out there, because the shrinkage of our brain, the tightening of our brain, is something that also causes over time, whether it be a different illness that causes that shrinking of the brain, can cause depressive thoughts and all kinds of things. So, there's so much going on in the brain of a person who has MS, and that, yes, you deal with it from a emotional standpoint, not connected to the fact that there is a chemical component that's causing the emotional component. So, I hope that answered it, but, initially, and a lot of people don't understand it unless you do the research to understand, most people who have this illness go, oh, okay, I have MS, well, I must be depressed because they told me I have MS. No, you are depressed because there's chemicals in your brain that are either active or not active that are causing you to feel badly. We have to figure out what you need to do, and if you understand that, it helps to, I believe, empower you more than it does to hinder you or become a hindrance. Because the more I know, that means that what do I have to do to either help to promote the positive chemicals I need to help me think better and feel better? What do I have to do to lift those endorphins in my body chemically to counterbalance the ones that are the negative ones causing the negative thought? And once you do that, you can start to understand that you have a little bit more control over our psychological self than we think we have.
Very, very interesting. You mentioned that one of the therapies that helps you is actually snowboarding. How does that help you? It's such a physical activity and so demanding on the body.
Well, very interesting. A lot of people who have MS have heat sensitivities, extreme heat sensitivities. It's one of our core symptoms, though not any person with MS shares all the same symptoms. It's very interesting. We have about maybe 45, 50% of symptoms that are core to everyone, but there's someone else who has MS who doesn't have anything like the symptoms that I may have, and I may not have anything like the one that they have. With a lot of us, we have a heat sensitivity issue because we have a thermostat problem. We have a brain-blood barrier problem, and we feel that there's like a little bit of a cooling issue problem in the brain. And so I'm one of those people that for the first 7-8 years, I'm also in a very, very advanced treatment protocol right now that's been helping quite a bit. But for the first 7 years of my life, I literally couldn't handle the heat above 82 or 83 degrees. If I was outside and it was 85 degrees, I might fall down. I could hit the pavement. And I passed out multiple times. So I stopped hanging around hot areas of the world and started literally trying to find out where it was cooler. Well, when it was starting to break, 90 and 100 degrees, 95 degrees in New York for 20 days in a row back in 2000, 2001, 2, and 3, I decided to leave New York in the summer and go to South America, which was visit the winter and just stay close. I would spend from June until September in Santiago. And while I was down there, I said, well, I got to figure out something to do in the winter. And I had never been a snowboarder or a skier. But after talking to a doctor about the way my feet responded to MS, they thought that this might be something that would give me back a little bit of my dexterity and just working on it. So once I started doing it, it actually proved to be a therapeutic motion, not only for my body, for my ankles, and also for my brain, because it helped to kind of squash some of the pain that I was feeling.
Wow, that is interesting. I guess then you certainly wouldn't be in Arizona in July then.
Well, now I'll tell you, in the last couple of years, I've been working on some protocols that right now my heat sensitivity is almost completely gone.
That's wonderful.
So I haven't had to literally leave North America for the last 4 years. I've been staying in North America for the last 4 years, and I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm not hanging out in Vegas at 117. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
I got you. They're not booking you for any shows in Vegas anytime soon.
Not going to happen.
Okay. So let's talk about the powerofpain.org. I have had the pleasure to interview the chairman and founder of Power Pain Foundation, Barbie Engel. She's a wonderful woman with an incredible character and strength. How did you get involved with the Power Pain Foundation, and has your involvement helped you to deal and manage your own pain better?
Well, I've just really started reaching out and got involved with them when they reached out to ask me to come and speak at this year's summit. And I started finding out as much information about them as they also were finding out about me. My number one symptom for MS has been my neuropathic pain in my feet and my shins. And I have worked at quite a few different things, which include exercise and diet, and a brand new process that I'm going through, a treatment protocol that I'm going through right now. It's called a PONS device. That's literally reduced my pain by about 75 to 80%, and it stays there, and it stayed there. And this is something that I hope that I get to share with this audience this weekend.
That is amazing. So, with this new treatment that you've been doing, have you been able to basically, I guess, stop it, or is it still regressing? Or
no,
is it
I would
not?
say that I have MS, and I will have MS. I'm trying to make sure that MS never has me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a disease, and I've just recently had a few new MRIs and taking a look at the progression to see how this disease is. I'm doing very well with it. Mm-hmm. It is a disease that we do not still have the ability to arrest or stop. So nature is really doing what it's doing, along with the treatments that I'm doing to try to see if I can slow down its progressive. I think I've done that, and I'm doing that. And rather than getting worse, I have been getting better. So the treatment protocols that I'm under are working. As a matter of fact, I would say that, compared to 4 years ago, definitively in every aspect of my illness has increased and gotten better by at least 80%. My pain is reduced by about 80%, and it stays there now. So I am working on some things, and this is something that isn't just for me. This protocol that I'm talking about, I believe in so much that I just help work to take this protocol. I'm going to talk a little bit about this week too, but I hope to move this protocol forward, and over the course of the next year, the world is going to have an opportunity to participate.
That is excellent. Okay, we're going to take a very, very quick break, but I want you to stay with us. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about this weekend's show and a couple other things, okay?
Okay.
All right.
You're tuning into the Josh Bernstein Show, where Josh covers the news the way the liberal media would not dare.
You're listening to the Double Wide Network, where you can host your own radio show. If you're looking for a way to get out your message, welcome to the future. Dave Pratt's Double Wide Network offers you the opportunity to use our state-of-the-art studio to create your very own radio show. Our experienced and helpful production staff will help you every step of the way. Our free mobile app allows your listeners to take your show with them and play it live or on demand. Even if you're not in Arizona, we've got you covered with Skype technology, so you can broadcast from anywhere in the world. Whether you're in it to grow your business, make a statement, deliver a message, or just have fun hosting your own show, the Double Wide Network can make it happen. The Double Wide Network always has your show ready to go. For more information, just visit us at doublewidenetwork.com.
The TeaPartyCommunity.com website was built to provide an online safe haven social community for all of the Tea Parties across America to utilize and enjoy. Tea Party Community serves as a hub for sharing ideas, unifying a movement, and organizing strategies to keep America in her rightful place as the greatest nation on earth. Visit TeaPartyCommunity.com today to open your free account. At TeaPartyCommunity.com, we welcome all factions of the Tea Party and conservative movements to join us here and establish their presence. Upgraded and special privileged accounts are available for large conservative groups and nonprofit organizations. Join TeaPartyCommunity.com today and get involved in the process of taking our country back.
You're listening to the Josh Bernstein Show, where liberalism is a mental disorder. And Josh is the cure.
Okay, folks, we are back. In case you're just joining us, we are talking to television star, advocate, and activist Montel Williams. Montel, the Power Pain thing that's going on, it's going to be this Friday, November 14th, at the Chandler Center for the Arts, 9 to 5 p.m. It is a free event for the public. I know that you're running up against it here, so I just want to say thank you so much for being with me on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. You know, I think this is a really, since this is open for the public, I will tell you, a lot of people in this country, you know, if you look out at remember, we live in a time right now where about 40% of this country, 40 to 45% of this nation, suffers from one chronic illness, and about 80% of them suffer from two. This number is going to increase in about 6 years to about 60% of this country having one chronic illness and 80% of them having two. That means 1/3 of the United States of America has a chronic illness, which is really incredible when you talk a little bit, you hear people discussing things like, you know, Obamacare or health care or Affordable Care Act or Romney Care or Republican Care. It doesn't matter, because you have to hear this, and I hope your listeners understand this. There's a freight train, two of them on a track, headed towards each other at rocket speed. They're going to crash in 2020. One of those trains is going down the track, and it has the fact that 60% of America will have at least one chronic illness, and again, 80% of them two. That means 120 million people, 110 million people will be going to the hospital or seeking medical care at least twice a week. Coming down the track in the other direction, you have the fact that by 2020, we are going to be anywhere from 150 to 350,000 doctors short to 600,000 nurses short. It doesn't matter whose name you put on health care. We're going to be living in a time where they're going to be doling out and rationing out care by doctors and nurses. And the majority of the people who talk about their chronic illness, their number one symptom is pain. America's got to get a grip. And we can keep begging our government to do something, or what we can do is start paying attention to our own responsibility for our own individual healthcare footprint, start doing the basic things like watching your diet, reducing the amount of smoking, and starting to exercise. That right there alone might keep us an actual functioning nation after the year 2020. But with the bill that we have coming our way, it's going to be a tough country to be living in.
Those are some interesting parting words. I wish you continued good health, and my thoughts and prayers go out to Marissa as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'll make sure that myself and